about 9:45 in the evening on Friday evening. Look at these beans back here, guys. And they haven't even jumped from today's thunderstorm yet. They're already blossoming. I'm gonna have a whole bunch of green beans here shortly, and I love them. So that'll be good. That'll be good. I wanted to talk about a couple of Mandela effects that. When I hear people talk about effects, there's a mass amount of people that usually remember things the way that they used to be. But sometimes there's some variations, and I have some of my own variations. And so I thought I'd talk about them. One of them is the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. I can remember the arms coming down at an angle, and his palms were out. And I don't know how to say it, but his arms came down like this. They weren't straight out. They weren't like this before. Everybody talks about the statue being bigger, and it definitely is bigger. But I remember the arms being in a different position, and I don't think I've heard anybody else talk about that. Febreze is another one. People talk about different spellings of Febreze, but see, I remember Febreze because it was fabric, like a breeze blowing through fabric. F-A-B, not F-E-B. F-A-B-R-E-E-Z. And the E was left off the end, and it bothered me because it wasn't spelled right. But that's how products do things, and they name things that way. I guess they figured it'll stick in your mind, and it stuck in mine because it wasn't spelled right. But I haven't heard anyone else ever talk about F-A-B-R-E-E-Z. I've never heard anybody talk about it, but that's how I remember it used to be. As far as the VW symbol, that one for me it's like Fruit Loops. It switches back and forth. I remember when I was pretty young, my dad traded in his 1960 Wolfsburg Volkswagen for a 1965. And I remember very well that the name badge had a space in between the V and the W. I remember years later, my brother-in-law had one parked in some trees over at his farm. It was a VW bus, excuse me, second generation VW bus. And that was the first time I ever saw a VW badge that didn't have that line in between the V and the W. And I made note of it. And I thought it was only on that particular model. Then I saw it later on some of the Mexican-made models of the Volkswagen Fox. And, but now it's back to how it used to be with a line in it. Now I remember it being that way once before, and then that line disappeared, and now the line is back. I haven't heard anybody else talking about it being like that. I've heard other people saying they remember the line not being there. And I remember it was, and then it wasn't, and now it is again. So to me that's a flip-flop. Yeah, there are certain things about the Wizard of Oz that I agree with most people that they remember. One of them is "Fly, my pretties, fly" to the flying monkeys. I mean, the witch definitely said that, but apparently not anymore. The one thing that I do remember from a long time ago, and I remember thinking about it at the time, thinking it was just such a weird scene. It's getting dark out, isn't it? But that was when they were going back into the enchanted forest after leaving Oz, and they had all these weird things with them. And see, it wasn't just the Scarecrow's, what was it, a police special P-38 or something. It wasn't just the revolver he had, but it was a monkey wrench, a big silver monkey wrench besides the axe, one in each hand, the Tin Man had. I mean, they had been sent to go get the witch's broomstick from Oz. So I assumed that was supposed to be the thing the things that they gave them. And I remember thinking about that years ago, because I watched the thing from the time I was a kid, probably 5 years old, so 63, you know, from 63 on, almost every year it was on. I used to look forward to watching it. And my mom would let me watch it, because she liked the movie too. And you know, it was just, I remember it being that way. I remember it was that way before. I don't remember that ever changing. See, now other people remember, they don't remember that scene. I remember thinking it was a weird scene. You know, why did the, you know, I mean, what kind of a weapon is a bug sprayer? That's what the Cowardly Lion had in a great big butterfly net. Okay, so I guess he's going to catch spooks with that net or something. I don't know. But as it was, the monkeys tore him up anyway. Fly my pretties fly was never said, but the monkeys definitely flew, and they definitely ripped him up pretty good. I don't know. I just, the Scarecrow, I love that scene though. That's you all over. But I don't know. It's just one of the things that I thought, well, that was an odd scene that probably should have been an outtake, maybe. But they needed it for something because it was just strange. Maybe they needed it for some kind of continuity, I don't know. But the personal things where I'd heard some people talking early on about the pyramids were different because Orion was different. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I haven't ever really heard anyone talk about it besides myself. I did post a video about it. It had to do with Cancer. The constellation Cancer has changed in my memory. One of the stars has moved out of position with the others. And you know, the globes that I remember from when I was growing up, the globes, if they were old, when I was a kid in class in elementary, would have probably been from the 50s. And but I do recall that they had polar ice caps on the North Pole with a rotating textured plastic disc kind of thing. It was just slightly larger than a record label, with a spindle hole about the same size where the axis used to go through, right? But those globes don't exist because they never existed, because there's no North Pole up there. And it didn't melt because you can't find those globes anywhere. They don't exist. You can't find an antique Earth globe, at least I was looking to try to find one, and I can't find an antique Earth globe of any kind. Old classroom globes, circa 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970, 1980, anything, with a polar ice cap on it in the North Pole. So I don't know, there's just some oddities that I noticed that other people weren't talking about that were effects that I noticed. I have other personal effects, but Mandela effects, personal effects. I have personal Mandela effects that I might have shared it before. But anyway, I just thought I'd talk about that, and I hope you guys are having a nice weekend. We had an awesome rain. I'm looking forward to eating some beans here shortly. These babies are blossoming. You guys have a good one.